Okay, so I am here with Stephanie Chung. We're here in Boston, Massachusetts at Invictus Boston. How are things going so far?
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, so the season's been we're in the midway portion. I know you competed strength and depth, right? Mayhem. What's kind of next on tap for you in the sanctional season?
Well, I'm headed to Iceland in early April. That's the one I'm next ramping up
Yep.
for. To be honest, I haven't planned anything after that. There's some really great sanctionals coming up after that, but I'm going to kind of take stock of where my body's at and how I'm feeling about competition and take a look at the calendar and go from there.
Awesome. Well, we're going to see you there, so I'm very excited to do that. I'm really excited to go back to Iceland.
Yeah.
We're going to have a great opportunity to cover that event just about, 6 weeks from now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about preparation a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So the ultimate goal here is CrossFit Games, right?
Kind of, maybe.
Kind of? Okay. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Right. So I actually don't train with that goal in mind. Of course, it's something that would be really nice to achieve. I actually just go into every sanctional trying to do my very best, and the explicit goal this time is to podium. I really want to be on the podium in a sanctional this year, and if that happens to also qualify me to the CrossFit Games, that would be great. But every sanctional, I feel like I learn a little bit more about myself, and I learn a little bit more as a competitor. It doesn't come super naturally to me competing directly against other people. In gymnastics, you're just one up, one count, you're trying to do your very best, and you kind of don't worry about what everyone else is doing, and that sport's very different. So I'm really trying to grow in that area and trying to put out a really good performance personally, and then in a very competitive field as well.
So let's talk about some of the lessons you've learned, right? So competition's great because you can have an opportunity to test out new strategies or just throw yourself into the mix, kind of see how it works, or different kinds of workouts and styles of programming that you're going to face in the competitive season. What have been some of the lessons that you've learned and the development that you've made as an athlete over the last 2 sanctionals that you've done this year, but then what you did last year?
Right, so the interesting thing about sanctionals for me is that you don't always know the workouts, you don't always have an opportunity to practice them. With regionals, I was, for the most part, the 3rd week, so we had a lot of opportunity to practice repeatedly and watch other people do them and re-strategize and try a lot of different things. And with sanctionals, we just don't get that opportunity a lot, so that's also a big change for me, and that's something that I'm really learning how to do better at. I think that is also something I've learned a lot, is how to readjust on the competition floor. With the practice and preparation, at regionals previously, I went into each workout with a very good game plan, kind of knowing what my best performance was, and that was all I needed to focus on. And now I need to, when I'm on the competition floor, I might need to readjust, re-strategize, and be a little bit more fluid than I'm used to.
Gotcha. Okay. So you've got Iceland coming up in the works. The end of the season's sort of a little bit unknown. I think the hope is great if you do qualify. That's fantastic, but not the ultimate goal here. What is sort of your competitive trajectory looking like? Where do you want to see yourself in the next couple of years as a competitive athlete? Do you want to continue to move in that direction as a multi-year games athlete, or is training really where your heart is and you're just excited about being out on the competition floor?
Yeah, a little bit of the latter. I love to compete, and I love to train, and I think that being at the CrossFit Games is a great goal. I think that's going to the games again is a great goal to have, but I think to be successful in this sport for me is also to go to these sanctionals and do my best and continue aspiring to hit my peak. That's ultimately what I train for, and I think the sanctionals are a really good test of whether I'm kind of still training towards peak or whether I'm kind of plateauing. And the sanctionals this year have really highlighted that I need to work on my running and my engine more, so we've been doing a lot of that since SID, and that's kind of a great thing. It's the programming is different, but you see patterns across all of it, and when you see those patterns, it's a good way to attack it.
There's I can't tell you what the workouts are yet, but I can tell you that certain sanctionals coming up will have running as a kickoff workout.
They all do.
Should come as a surprise if you are a competitive CrossFit athlete. Running,
Yes.
beach, and or both of them.
Yes.
Pretty much across the board.
Right.
Just gonna throw that out there. So
Yeah.
if you don't like sand and you don't like swimming in not a pool,
You're right.
and you don't like running in an unfamiliar terrain, like Norway up a snow slope, or somewhere like Mayhem, which is through a forest with things that you can trip on and things that your bottom of your feet don't feel comfortable with, or with a load like at the Go Ruck event that kicked off Wadapalooza this last weekend. If you don't like those things, that's unfortunate. I'd probably spend a little more time doing them because they're going to show up. I can tell you that.
And I think that's something, the predictability is that there will be running. The unpredictability is kind of where it'll be.
What you're running on. Snow, sand.
Up a mountain.
You know, any combination of that is just great. And that's kind of a unique thing about Sanctionals now, is that there is a lot of variety, right? And you've competed, 4 Sanctionals now total?
3.
3, okay.
Ireland, Mayhem, and Sid.
And Italy last year, and Wadapalooza last year.
Yes.
Okay, so 5 total.
Yes.
So what kind of things have you seen and that you really like about the new Sanctionals format that you think is kind of unique and a little different than the old regionals format?
I think the variety. You get to choose not only what competition kind of programs, something that's closer to kind of what you train for, but also the variety through the season. So you're not competing kind of open in February, regionals in April, May, and then games in August. You get to really create your own schedule, your own season, and kind of when it works best for you to peak. I think that's really valuable, and that's something that's very cool. I like the format. I think it's interesting for people to watch as well. It's it is unpredictable, and I think every event so far has had at least one event that was like, ooh, I don't know how that's going to go or how people are going to adapt to it. So it keeps it interesting for us, and it keeps it interesting for people who are watching. Totally.
And I completely agree, having been on the ground for many of these and seen them play out and talk to some of the athletes who are like, whoa, this is different. Like, never really thought that would ever show up before. And there they are doing it, and their reaction usually is, oh, that was kind of fun. And that's nice, because regionals never really took people outside before. It was always done sort of like you could pretty much do any of those workouts in the gym. Sanctionals now is kind of like it's not regionals plus as in everything's harder, but it has broken down that barrier and kind of gone outside of it a little bit, literally outside it a little bit. But with they implement unbroken rope climbs, which you had an opportunity to do in Ireland. That's like a new thing, and they've been able to experiment with some positive and negative developments in the sport of fitness, which is great, right?
I think it is. I think it's also an opportunity for Sanctionals to learn from each other, which I think they're communicating a lot about. From what I hear, they're talking about what worked, what didn't, and so there's a lot of opportunity to kind of refine those things. But I like that they're adding new things in there, and it's unpredictable, because I think ultimately that's going to favor the people who can adapt on the fly or learn a new skill.
With very little practice.
Right, and that's something that I continue to work towards as an athlete, because I am a very practiced and
gymnastics is a very disciplined sport. I've been told, never personally done it, but I hear you have to spend a lot of hours training and going through routines and practicing and drilling down the specifics, and on the fly is probably not the way to approach most of the gymnastics.
Right, there's a lot of repetition that goes into gymnastics, and that's kind of where my mindset is typically at, but it's a really good challenge to have all of these new things kind of thrown at you, and you have to game plan with little information about what it's going to feel like, and sometimes you do that well, and sometimes you don't do that well, and it's all learning.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition now. Would you describe yourself as a very strict nutrition, with your nutrition, or are you kind of more like, I do this and I do this, but I'm not crazy about it? Where are you on that spectrum?
Okay, I'm edging up on the pretty crazy about her macros, but trying to ease off a little bit too, for a little bit of
variety.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I work with M2 Nutrition, and Mike's trying to get me to kind of back off the macros. I'm very good at the measure every day, hit my numbers. The type A in me is
it's right there.
I got this.
Gotcha. Okay,
tell me a number, I got it. But
so with Sanctionals then, and the reason why I asked that is, how do you approach that now that you're on the road in a foreign country where America's great because you can eat anything you want. You can go to the grocery store, you can find every style of food, from healthy to unhealthy, but just from Asian to American, classic American, to just good old-fashioned farm-to-table type style eating, or barbecue, or whatever it is you want, right? You can find it all here.
Yeah.
That's not the case in every country. So how have you approached that on some of your foreign trips, and how do you usually handle nutrition because you are pretty strict about what you eat and how you feel yourself for performance. How do you usually approach that?
Right. So it's taken a couple of years to get really comfortable with the macros while traveling thing. I have my go-to foods that I know I can find almost anywhere that will be somewhat similar.
And what's that?
So usually you can find oats. So when I'm like I do oatmeal almost every day. So I do oatmeal and then I'll do like jam and honey. So that's like easy carbs. Yeah, and then I usually bring my protein powder with me. I don't play with supplements on the road, so I'll bring all that. Yeah, I'll bring all that stuff with me. I'm kind of crazy about like what I put in my body, so I'll bring all that with me, and I'll put protein powder in my oats. Then things like dried fruit you can pretty much find anywhere. Like Pedialyte, electrolytes, you can find kind of anywhere. Sometimes I bring my own mix if I know that it's a country where I don't really know the brands. So I have some go-tos where I know it'll be similar to what I'm accustomed to. And then there's also some things like sometimes you just have to go and like buy whole chicken at the supermarket.
Do you usually cook when you're on the road? Do you try and stay somewhere where you know you have like access to a kitchen?
If I can. Okay. I really like working through like Airbnb or finding kind of a extended stay hotel. Yeah. There have been some Sanctionals where I've been at where it's just like not possible, that doesn't exist. So where I can cook, it's obviously better, but staying in a hotel, I also have some tricks.
Okay.
And some stuff I bring with me just in case.
Okay, so you bring a lot of stuff on the road. You got a couple of tricks up your sleeve to do that. Yeah, make sure you're meeting your macros. Do you consider that to be like one of the bigger challenges to traveling internationally though? Is just like how you're going to actually eat for the next like 5 or 6 days?
It's a challenge for sure. The first thing I do is definitely go to a grocery store, and the first thing I Google is like nearest grocery store to where I'm staying. That's like a huge consideration, but different things. I mean, Mike works with me a lot as well. I'm like, okay, I have this available, and like I didn't have this, so what can I substitute for? What can keep me kind of feeling good? And luckily, I haven't run into any major problems. I think the biggest issue I had was in Italy last year. We were staying at a hotel and there was no kind of like microwave, and I really had to get creative there with what I was eating because I didn't have they had prepared meals at the venue, but not kind of in the week that I got there before. So I got really creative with some supermarket food that week. I ate a lot of oatmeal.
Did you at least have like a kettle you could heat things up with?
No, I did not.
Wow, okay.
I did not.
Really stretching the limits of your creativity here, okay.
There was like some cold chicken involved, some cold squid. That was not so nice, but I did it. It's kind of also like sometimes it's just cold mind squid over matter and like a means to an end, you know?
Yeah, cold squid how did you pick that one? Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's like sushi grade salmon, which, you know, without a little miso sauce, that'd be pretty great. But then how'd you get to the cold squid part? That's a little bit of a stretch there.
Right. So I don't know how this happened, but I had a car. So I went to a grocery store and I went to actually 2. And it just so happened the 2 I picked didn't have the most variety in their prepared food, and they didn't have a lot of hot food. It was a lot of stuff that you would buy and
like squid. Take
home and heat up. Only I went back to the hotel and found out that we couldn't heat anything up because they didn't have a microwave for us.
Lovely.
So that was a couple days of very interesting food. I did a decent amount of protein. Thankfully I brought some protein bars with me, so I did some protein bars. I ate a lot of oatmeal, a lot of cold overnight oats, a lot of dried fruit, and then but by the time we got to the venue, they had the prepared meals and they had microwaves. So I was very.
So you're all set after that. You just had to suffer through a couple of days of cold squid and overnight oats, and you were set.
I'm making it sound really appetizing, right?
Yeah, it's
that's
definitely.
Pretty much my memory of the whole that week.
That's excellent. But it sounds like a very fun Sanctionals road warrior story. So I'm sure, hopefully, you don't have to go through that too many more times.
No.
And you're in a place where you have access to a microwave or hot water of some kind. Cool. So, all right, we're mid-season. You've got another event on the horizon, maybe some others later on in the season. What's kind of like your day-to-day regimen though? Let's talk about like just a little bit outside of just hardcore games level training. You know, your 2-a-days and your 3-a-days and stuff.
Yeah.
How are you spending a lot of your rest of your time in the gym? I think you're a coach, right? Victus Boston.
Yes.
You're spending a lot of time doing that.
I do spend a lot of time doing that. So I'm currently a full-time coach within Victus Boston. So I coach 24 hours a week. In addition to some programming I do for individual clients, and we have a program here called In Touch where we work one-on-one with members and kind of their needs, and when they're a new member, kind of on-ramping them and helping them adjust to the culture. So in addition to training 2-3 times a day, I coach a lot, which I really like. It really helps me kind of connect with the community and not just be a face in the gym, but also someone that really helps people achieve their fitness goals.
Do you ever drop into the classes with everybody else?
If I'm off season, I do. So when I'm not kind of training,
so not right now, but like
something,
maybe a little bit later in the season or pre-open.
Yeah, I actually love that. So if I see a workout that I really like, I'll either, if I can't find a class time, I'll kind of do it on my own, or I'll just jump in with the class, and that's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that on Saturdays before.
Oh yeah, I love Saturday workouts.
Yeah,
Usually longer partner workouts sometimes. Our gym programs a lot of partner workouts, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's also great to work with other people too, and get to like partner up and buddy up on longer, bigger workouts with like a couple hundred reps and stuff.
It is really fun. Unfortunately, I don't get a lot of people requesting to be my partner. they have this feeling.
Not?
I don't know.
So I'd be your partner.
Amazing. Well, I'm gonna hold
but
you.
I'm not
to
gonna
that.
be here on Saturday, so.
Well, one Saturday you'll have to
come back.
Come back.
That's right. I'll show you how to do some barbell cycling. Mm-hmm. I got some tricks.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. You can push me.
Yeah. Hey, you know what?
Definitely on the runs.
Yeah, I like running. I love running.
Yeah.
I'm always a sucker for a good running workout. It's usually the great equalizer for me.
You can drag me along, but I'll be better by running by then.
Okay, very
whenever
good.
You come back.
So, do you have a training partner?
At the moment, I do not.
Do you like working out solo, or would you prefer to have somebody next to you?
I do prefer to have someone next to me. I think it's a really good push, and I enjoy the kind of social aspect of it. I've had training partners kind of in the past, and that's been really nice, but I also have spent seasons training by myself, so I'm a little bit fluid as whether I have one or whether I don't. It's really like I like the program that I'm on right now. And so if someone's kind of willing to do my Metcons, I actually do have Maria is also a coach here, and she'll jump in on my Metcons oftentimes, and that's really nice.
Yeah.
Like I love the days that we kind of do things together.
Now, if you guys are on different scaling, do you still want to beat the other person, or are you kind of chill in your training, in your non-competitive moments?
Yeah.
Where do you fall on that spectrum?
Well, the good thing is that I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing, like when you're training and when you're competing, and when I'm in the gym, I'm training. So I don't put a lot of stock into comparing myself with the person who's doing the workout next to me. Obviously, things like the open are different because then you're competing. But that's really the.
So like if I beat you in a workout, you'd be okay. Like you wouldn't send it just to win. You'd like stick to your plan. Like this is what we're training today. This is why I'm doing it.
I mean, it depends.
Okay.
It depends.
Depends.
No, I mean, so if I'm training with a specific intent,
yeah,
I always hit that
try to
intent.
stay to the intent.
Right. If I'm training for fun and we're like bantering back and forth, and you're just like I'm gonna smoke you on this workout, like I'm gonna go out to win.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
But on the day to day, like I think having a training partner that really understands that and that you both kind of connect and agree that that's the purpose. Yeah. It's really tough to have someone like one of you is competing with the other person and the other person is just trying to train. Like that isn't quite on the same level. So the really great thing about Maria is that we both have the same idea.
Well, she's a coach too, right? So she understands the unique difference between training and competing. And I think I didn't. Definitely, as a younger athlete, when I first joined CrossFit, they were the same thing. Training is competing.
Right.
Competing is training. It's like, no, I'm going to win. I want top 5 across the class in this workout. And you're like, yeah, but you sacrificed so many things that you didn't learn. And, you may have won the workout or beat your buddy in the workout, but you're not really improving because of these reasons.
Right. Well, I think that competing while training serves a purpose for some people. For example, like if competing is the only reason that you come in to train, like you are driven by being like top 3 in the workout, like great. If that's the only reason you kind of come into the class, that's awesome. But I think at some level when you're trying to truly improve yourself, sticking with the intent of the workout and making sure that you're hitting those points of performance is much more important than winning. For example, like set breakdowns, very different if you're trying to like get the fastest time versus hit a certain stimulus. So that aspect is really important for us. And it is kind of, we spend so much time doing this. If I were to spend a session and not hit that stimulus, it's like I'd be wasting that whole session.
Yeah.
And then I've just wasted my time.
Yeah.
But I think that competing during training does serve a purpose for some people. Just I choose to train a little bit more, so that's why
you're a pretty disciplined trainer, and that's probably a pretty good thing. You know, I know that I've spoken to all manner of games athletes and games hopeful athletes, and they have various styles, the way they like to perform and stuff, and a lot of stuff is very individual. And then there's some things that are pretty universal, but you sound like you're a disciplined athlete. I'm sure your coach appreciates that very much. Wait, do you have a coach, actually? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, you do have a coach. Who's your coach?
His name's Yami. He works,
oh, yeah, okay.
Lives in London, so I got to do Sid with him. And so it's been really good, and I think our styles work well together, kind of being methodical, and everything has a purpose. Mm-hmm. I kind of I need some kind of guidance on like, what's the purpose of this? What am I intending to feel? Yeah. Because I don't want to go through, anyone can put themselves through pain, but is the pain going to be worth it on the other side? Is that really what I'm trying to get out of today? And that's how I look at every one of my training sessions. What do you think,
in keeping with that sort of train of thought, what do you think is one of your biggest weaknesses as an athlete right now that you're working on? Running. Okay. Running because of the physical running or aerobic capacity?
Well, that's interesting. I don't exactly know. I think it's a combination of both. As gymnasts, we don't run very much in training.
Right.
I was telling someone the other day, the longest I can ever remember running, like our long run, was over the summer when we do 2 days, and we only did this ever one time a year. It can't have been more than a mile.
It felt long, but
it felt like ages. Yeah. But they would take us out, and we'd all bring our sneakers to the gym, which was different because we never wore sneakers to the gym, and they had one coach in a car at the front, one coach in a car at the back, and
just herding you guys like cattle,
just making sure that no one died on the side of the road, and that was all I remember about distance running ever growing up. So I think it's a little bit of technique and just kind of feeling uncomfortable when I'm tired, and then it's also a little bit of just building the capacity to be able to.
Did you feel the same way when you're on the machines? So we got the bike. Well, bike's a little different than aerobic capacity, but so we got the rower over here. So we got the ski erg. Do you feel similar in those regards? Or are you a lot more comfortable on the machines?
I'm a lot more comfortable on the machines.
Got it.
Yeah, it's really just running.
Okay, fair enough. It's just running. So we're gonna spend a lot of time out running.
Yes,
I think for the next few months. Okay, very good. And I grew up running a lot. I played basketball and I ran cross country, so I spent a lot of time running. A stupid amount of time running, so I fell in love with it, which is great, because running is a fairly functional movement. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have that in my back pocket. Yeah. However, there are a lot of people who come to CrossFit never ran outside of their high school track, where they had to do their 1 mile a year for your physical fitness test, and that's the last time they ran a mile, and they come into the gym. You coach a lot of athletes. I'm sure you can easily spot the athletes who are like, oh, the running day, and they're like, no. Can I sub it out for a row, or can I do the bike instead? And you're like, oh.
Not the same. I mean, and that's the thing really, is that running is kind of the best implement to getting fitter. So if you improve your running capacity, you'll improve everything else. And so I do really encourage people to start running.
Actually
and it's not,
do the run.
Right, and it's not that I haven't been running over the past X many years. It's just now I'm running 4 times a week.
There's a big difference between doing time trials or 400 splits or 800 splits and doing Helen, which is 3 rounds of 400 meters, which is a great stimulus. It's a great high heart rate workout, and you can really push to run. But training running and having running in a workout are not the same thing.
Definitely not.
Spending day at the track and doing 400s or 800s or descending ladders of 400s, 800s, 300s, it doesn't really matter, is a very, very different stimulus. And that lactic threshold and that metal mouth that you get from pushing that threshold or trying to hit, you have to hit 105s. You got to hit 65-minute 400s. 65-second 400s. You've got to do 4 rounds at 65-second 400s with 4-minute breaks in between. And you're going to push every single one is a terrible feeling.
Yes.
An awful, gut-wrenching feeling.
Yes.
And it's definitely something at the affiliate level we don't see as much training where just a workout that's purely track-based.
Right.
Not just at a track, but purely a running-based workout.
Right.
where you're going to do like 4 800s. Like, oh, like that. There'll be like 2 people in the class that day.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, because no one wants to do that.
Nobody wants to do that, right?
But it's so good. And I think that's the thing as well as those sessions, if you take out the lactic threshold issue, you really get to work on your technique and you're focused on one thing only, right? It's like running.
Yeah.
And how can you do that the best and most efficiently that you possibly can. So I have been spending a lot more time like just running, and I think that's something that we kind of, unfortunately, we've gotten lucky this season, but we kind of miss in the Northeast is like, it's not always great to go to the track in the winter.
Right.
It's not always fun to run outside. I've definitely been guilty of that. Is like, oh, I'll just run on the runner, and the runner is great.
Yes.
Well, it's not the same as running outside.
No.
So luckily the winter
Wind,
has been
let alone.
wild.
Wind is just a casual thing, but you're like, yeah, you know, it's like, yeah, but it makes kind of a difference when you're running in the wind.
Yeah, I experienced that this morning. I was out and I hit an open water patch and it just hit me and I was like, I am going so much slower right now.
Yeah, you really are.
Yeah,
it actually makes a difference and stuff. So, all right, I have one final question for you. So, for the world of athlete hopefuls out there, you know, you've gone from being, you know, somebody who couldn't perform a muscle up, joining CrossFit, and now you're, you know, this really accomplished CrossFit athlete who has a whole bunch of skills, great capacity, fundamental movement, and you're a professional athlete. So what's your one piece of advice to somebody who's kind of fit, you know, and they really kind of want to make this run at being a Sanctionals elite, maybe even a games athlete? What's your big piece of advice for somebody who's starting out that journey and they're like, yeah, that's a goal I have? What would you tell that person?
So I would tell them to be two things, 2 parts.
2 parts.
One,
Okay.
be realistic about your timeline. So
So not next season?
well, it depends. It depends on where everyone is. But I think that the issue is like if you don't build a good foundation of movement, then you're setting yourself up to eventually like topple when you're at the top. So it's like, for me anyways, it was always about the foundation of movement. And luckily I had my husband Rob worked with me when I couldn't do a muscle up. And we built a really great foundation of movement. So like technique wise, standard of movement, like everything was kind of second nature to me, so that by the time I started thinking about competing and pushing the pace and increasing the intensity and the weight, I had that really stable foundation. And a lot of the way I still move and cycle barbells, do muscle ups is due to that. I don't have to think about moving well, I just do, and then I think about moving fast.
Okay.
So for anyone who's trying to, I guess, jump into the Sanctionals world, you have to kind of allow for the time to build that foundation, and that does take time and kind of like repetition of good effort. And then comes the good stuff, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for spending so much time with me today. It's really great catching up with you. I look forward to see you in Iceland.
Yeah.
Me and the team will be there. We'll be covering the event wire to wire. And best of luck out there, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Justin, appreciate it.
Thank you.